Hi, everybody. Sorry that I'm a little late. I had a meeting starting at from 4:30 to 5. This is our foster dog temporarily named Lobo, and he's going to be joining us today. He's probably going to be in the way a little bit, so just bear with me. We're going to get into the hips. So you'll want to grab a blanket, just like a blanket, and then 2 pillows, couple pillows, something that emulate yoga blocks. So they could be books, or it could be like somebody told me that they're using like Clorox wipe containers. So something basically that just you can have like your hands on, or something that will support you. So we will get started, and I just need to set up my mat really quick. Sorry, guys. Okay. So we're going to get started. So again, if you just joined in, we're doing hips today. So just grab every sort of prop that you can have, and we're going to start in child's pose. So child's pose, you're going to start on hands and knees. So you're in a tabletop position. Take your knees a little bit wider than your hips, and then you're going to take the toes, your toes together, and just sit back on your heels as such, and then start to walk your hands out in front of you. And slide them all the way to the front of your mat, to the point where you can sink your chest onto your thighs, almost down to the ground, and then your forehead will be resting on the ground, or a pillow, or a block, or whatever you have. And we'll start here, and just close the eyes and start to take some deeper breaths. And in these deep breaths, see if you can create some space in the back body. So allow the rib cage to rise and expand as you inhale. And then as you exhale, sink a little bit further into the mat. You're feeling the back body open up and expand in the back rib cage. And then wherever your forehead is touching, see if you can start to roll your head from your forehead from side to side. And just massaging the forehead slightly. On your next inhale breath, start to reach your fingertips a little bit farther forward, and then start to walk your hands out to the left side of your mat, maybe off the mat if you can make it, and then stack your right hand on top of the left. So we're opening up the right side body here. So each time you breathe, sending the breath onto that right side rib cage. And then at the end of your next exhale, start to walk your hands back to center, reaching a little bit longer to the front of your mat on your inhale breath. And then on your exhale, walk your hands out to the right side of your mat. So we're opening up the left side body. As you inhale, create space and open up that left side rib cage, expanding deeply. And then as you exhale, reach a little bit more over to the right. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. Take one more deep breath here. And then as you exhale, walk your hands back to center. And then we're going to rise up in a tabletop pose. So we're taking, I just noticed him. We're taking our, in tabletop, we're on hands and knees, and we're stacking our hips right over our knees, and our shoulders right over our wrists. On your inhale breath, you're going to drop your belly low. Take your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Pull your chest through your shoulders and lift your sternum up to the ceiling. Broaden at the collarbones and lift your chin up to the sky. So this is cow pose. On the exhale breath, you're going to take your tailbone down towards your heels, pull the low belly in, puff the upper back up, and take your chin to your chest. Cat pose. On the inhale breath, drop your belly low, lift your tailbone, lift your chest, lift your chin. And then on the exhale, round and curl, cat pose. Inhale, drop the belly low, lift the chin, lift the chest, cow. And then on the exhale, round and curl. So then we're gonna come back to tabletop pose. And then lift the left knee off of the ground and just start to make some circles with the knee. Breathing deeply through the nose as you make those circles. And then exhale, reverse the direction of the circles. Keeping your core tight here to support this posture. And then release that left leg. You're going to lift the right knee and do the same on the other side. So make circles with the knee. Just massaging that hip space, lubricating the joint. Reverse the direction. You may get some pops and cracks there. That's totally good. And then return to center, return to tabletop pose. Reach your right arm forward like you're shaking somebody's hand, and then stretch your left leg back behind you. Flex the left foot and stamp the wall behind you. So engage that leg by lifting the kneecap. Pull the low belly towards the spine. Draw the ribs together. Press firmly into the left palm and reach the right arm as far forward as you can. Reach the left leg back as far as you can. Drop your left hip down so that it's flush with the right. And breathe deeply through the nose here. One more deep breath. And then exhale, release the right palm down. Drop your left foot down to the mat so that your foot is at a 45-degree angle. You can't really see it because the logo's in the way. But so we're opening up, keeping the right palm down. We're opening up our left arm up towards the ceiling. You may need to take your left or your right leg at a kickstand. So taking that that right heel a little bit further back to the right side for a little bit more balance. But our left foot is we're in a modified side angle. Our left foot is at that 90-degree or that 45-degree angle, and we're pushing our left hip forward and tucking our tailbone, or taking our tailbone down towards our heels. Pull the low belly in, broaden the collarbones, and take the shoulder blades down towards your tailbone. A long neck here. Take one more inhale breath. And then exhale, release. Coming back into tabletop pose. And we're going to do it on the other side. So extend that, extend the left arm out in front of you like you're shaking somebody's hand. And then the right leg goes back. Flex the right foot like you're stamping that wall with your foot. Drop the right hip down so that it's level with the left. Pull the low belly in towards your spine. Reach the left palm, left arm as far forward as you can. Press firmly into that right palm for stability. And we're breathing deeply here. Couple more breaths. Pull the belly in. Strong core here. And then on your next exhale, release the left palm down to the mat. Take your right foot and place it at a 45 or 90-degree angle on the mat. And then you can stand that left leg out so that it's towards the left side of your mat. And then start to reach the right arm up towards the ceiling for that modified side angle pose. Take your tailbone down towards your heels. Push the right hip forward in space. And seeing if you can broaden the collarbones and really open up that right, or the shoulders to the right side of the room. And you can either look straight to the side or you can look up at your extended hand, your right hand. Deep breaths here. One more breath. And then exhale, release back to tabletop pose. And then tuck the toes under. Lift your knees an inch off of the mat. Press firmly into the palms, spread the fingertips wide. And we're just holding here for a couple breaths. Warming up the core, warming up the legs. Couple more breaths here. Start to feel the heat build in the legs and in the core. Take one more deep breath. And then exhale, release the back or the knees down towards the mat. Walk your hands further to the front of your mat, about 6 inches. And then lift your knees back off of the ground. Start to lift your hips high and find downward facing dog. So downward facing dog, we want our fingers spread as wide as possible. Hands are shoulder width distance apart. Ears are at the biceps. And your shoulder blades are pulling down towards your tailbone. So instead of having your shoulders in your ears, seeing if you can drop the shoulders down. And then spin your biceps up towards the ceiling and your triceps down towards the mat. Have a soft bend in the elbows, a soft bend in the knees. Press firmly out of the hands so that you can find a little bit more length in the spine and a little bit of lightness in the wrist. Your feet should be about hips width distance apart. Your heels are falling down towards the mat. They don't have to touch, but they're working that way. You may want to pedal out your dog just to warm up the calves and open up that part of your body. Pull your low belly towards your spine. Draw your ribs together. So no flaring at the ribs. Take one more deep breath in downward facing dog. And then as you exhale, walk your feet towards the front of your mat. On your inhale breath, we're going to start lifting up about halfway. So in halfway lift, our hands are resting on our shins and our spine is long and straight. We have a very soft bend into the knee, mostly straight leg, but just a soft bend so we're not locking out the knees. So take a deep breath here. And then exhale, fold all the way down into a forward fold. So make sure that your feet are hips width distance or wider. Bend generously into the knees so that you can rest your chest on top of your thighs. Grab opposite elbows. And then just let your head and your spine and your neck hang super heavy. Weight is more into the toes and then the balls of your feet so that you can get your hips as close as possible over your heels as you can. So more of your weight in your toes. Maybe you sway from side to side. And taking deep breaths here. One more inhale. And one more exhale. On your inhale breath, we're going to slowly start to uncurl all the way to standing. So bend into the knees. Just let your arms hang heavy. And your head comes up last. Shrug your shoulders into your ears. And then take your shoulder blades down your back. Open up your palms to face the front of the room. On your inhale breath, start to reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Take your biceps next to your ears. Drop your shoulders down to your tailbone. Pull the low belly in. Draw the ribs together. Have a soft bend into the knees. Deep inhale breath here. And then exhale, bow forward all the way down to forward fold. On your inhale breath, come up halfway. Find that long, flat spine. Hands are resting on the shins or on the floor. And then as you exhale, plant your hands on the mat and step back into high plank pose. You can either stay in high plank or drop your knees down towards the ground to do one of two things. So 2 options for your vinyasa flow. So you can either stay on your knees and go all the way down to your belly, untuck your toes, and pull your chest through your shoulders for a low cobra, and then back into tabletop pose, downward facing dog. Or you're in high plank. You can shift your shoulders forward past your fingertips And then keeping your elbows in line with your ribs, lower halfway down so that your shoulders are in line with your elbows. So I don't want your shoulders dipping below your elbows. Untuck your back toes, and then peel your chest through into upward facing dog. Your knees are lifted off of the mat. And then exhale using the strength of your core, going back into downward facing dog, flipping your toes as you go. So 2 options there. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. And then exhale out. 1 more breath, inhale. And then as you exhale, come up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, and sink your chest into your thighs. Look forward and either hop up to the front of your mat, like so, or just stay here and then walk forward, step forward. But that's sort of the transition that you can take up to the front of your mat. On your inhale breath, you're coming into that halfway lift. And on the exhale, we're folding. Inhale, rise all the way back up to standing. The arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hands come through prayer and center in front of your heart. Inhale, sweep the arms overhead. And exhale, bow forward all the way down to forward fold. On the inhale breath, come up halfway. And on the exhale, plant your hands on the mat. Step back into high plank and move through whatever variation that you'd like. So you can either shift your shoulders forward, lower halfway, move through upward facing, or lower all the way down to your belly and go through cobra and then downward facing dog. So you can inhale breath and breathe out. Breathe in through the nose and breathe out. 1 last breath, inhale. And then exhale, either walk your hands or walk your feet towards the front of your mat or come up on your tippy toes, bend your knees, look forward, and hop up to the front of your mat. On the inhale breath, we come up into that halfway lift. And on the exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. The arms come up overhead. And then exhale, hands come through center in prayer in front of your heart. Inhale, arms come up overhead. Last time we're going to move through this. And then exhale, bow forward all the way down. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, plant your hands on the mat. Step back, or you can jump back. So jumping back into high plank. You bend into the knees and press firmly into the palms to see if you can get a little bit of lift. So this comes from the core. And then you just hop back and come right into chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing dog. So it's totally up to you sort of what variation that you want to take with those, moving through those vinyasa flows. You can skip them all together as well. It's totally up to you. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. 1 last breath, inhale. And then exhale, hop, step, or jump up to the front of your mat. Inhale, come up halfway. And then exhale, fold. This time we're sitting in a chair pose. So you can either take your feet, depending on your knee, like if you have knee problems, take your feet hips width distance apart. So that's usually 2 fists touching together in between your hands. So hips width distance apart, or you can take more like a more traditional chair where your toes are touching and your heels are slightly parted. So lower, sink the hips as low as you can, and then start to rise. Reach your arms forward out in front of you as high up as you can go. And then see if you can take the dip out of the low back by taking your tailbone down towards your heels. Pull the low belly in, draw the ribs together, take your shoulder blades down the mat, or down towards your tailbone. Take an inhale breath. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or hop back into high plank. Lower into chaturanga push-up or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. On your inhale breath, step your right foot to meet your right thumb. Take your left foot a little bit farther out towards the left edge of your mat, And then set your left heel down so that your foot is about a 45-degree angle. Bend into the right knee so your right knee's tracking right over your ankle. Start to reach your arms forward and are rising for warrior one. So our hips are as square as they can possibly be here. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of external rotation in the hip, but our goal is, sorry, getting a little warm now. Our goal is to work towards squaring the hips towards the front of the room. So in that case, I'm going to pull my right hip back, take my left hip forward, bend into the knee once again, and you might have to take your feet at a little bit of a wider stance here. That's totally up to you. And then we reach our arms up towards the ceiling. Warrior one. Drop your, soften at the shoulders and take your shoulder blades down your back. Press them into the outer edge of your left heel or your left foot. Take an inhale. And then as you exhale, take your arms forward and then plant your hands on the mat. Step back into high plank pose. Lower halfway or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. On your inhale breath, step your left foot to meet your left thumb. And then widen your stance if you need to. Drop your left or your right foot down so that it's up at a 45-degree angle. Bend into that front knee. Reach your arms forward and rise for warrior one on the other side. So drop that left hip down and bring the right hip forward to see if you can square your hips as much as possible to the front of the room. Pull your low belly in as much as possible. Check back in with that front knee. Make sure it's right over the ankle. Take an inhale breath. Exhale out. Inhale two. And exhale. Last breath, inhale. And then exhale, start to reach forward. Plant your hands back on the mat. Step back into high plank pose. Lower halfway or all the way down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. Inhale two. And exhale. Last breath, inhale. And as you exhale, make your way back to the front of your mat to step, hop, or jump. Inhale, come up halfway. And then exhale, fold. Inhale, sit into chair pose once again. So take your feet out, hips width distance or toes together, heels slightly apart. Sit your hips down as low as you can. See if you can take the dip out of the lower back by taking your tailbone down towards your heels, pulling in the belly towards your spine, and taking your ribs together. Squeeze the thighs together if you have your toes touching. Squeeze the glutes. One last breath here. And then exhale, rise, straighten the knees, all the way to standing. Hands at your heart. Take an inhale breath. Exhale out the mouth. Your next inhale, sit back in the chair pose. So sink the hips low. Inhale through the nose. And then exhale, fold forward all the way down. Inhale, rise into that halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or jump back into high plank or chaturanga. Lower halfway or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, step your left foot forward to meet your left hand, or your right foot forward, excuse me, your right foot forward. Drop your left heel down so that your foot is at a 45-degree angle. And then start to reach forward, rise for warrior one. Inhale through the nose. And exhale, see if you can square your hips to the front of the room. Inhale through the nose. And then exhale, reach forward, plant your hands back on the mat, step back into high plank pose or low plank, lower halfway down or all the way. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, step your left foot to meet your left hand. Drop your right heel down, 45-degree angle. And then we're rising for warrior one with our left foot forward. Inhale through the nose. And exhale out. Inhale two. And then exhale, start to reach back forward. Planting your hands, stepping back into high plank pose, lowering halfway or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Then exhale, downward facing dog. Take a deep breath through the nose. And exhale out. Inhale 2. Exhale out. Inhale 3. And then exhale, make your way back towards the front of your mat, step or jump up. Inhale, come up halfway. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sit into chair pose. So sit your hips low, hold the belly in, reach your arms forward. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. And then inhale, slowly start to rise back up. Hands come through center in prayer in front of your heart. Okay, so moving on, we're going to move through a couple standing sequences here. On your inhale breath, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale breath, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. And then exhale, fold, step or jump back into high plank, lower halfway down, or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. On your inhale breath, reach your right leg up towards the sky, keeping the hips squared at first. And then we're going to bend the knee and open up the right hip towards the right side of the room. So your knee is facing the right side of the room and your heel is moving towards your left butt cheek. So we're opening up, it's like a three-legged dog with our knee open. Take a deep breath. And then exhale, straighten the leg, keeping the hip open at first. And then close the hip off so that it's right in line with the left. And then step the right foot forward in between your hands. We're staying into this low lunge just for a moment. Take a deep breath. And then exhale, we're slowly going to start to rise. So reach your arms forward. Bend into the left knee to start. So instead of in a high lunge, where our pelvis is sort of tilting forward and we're like this, bend your knee so that you can get your pelvis as upright as possible. And that may look a lot different for a lot of people. So it may look like, you may have a straight, your hips might be open enough where you can have a straight leg while keeping your pelvis in neutral. But for a lot of us, that's pretty difficult. So bend as much as you need to in your back knee so that you can take your tailbone down towards the mat and your front hip bones are working your hip bones up towards the ceiling. So we're inhaling, reaching our arms up overhead. Take a deep breath here. High lunge, your front knee is right over your ankle. And then on your exhale breath, we're going to open up to warrior two. So you might need to adjust your stance. So we're going to drop the left heel down so that our foot is at a 90-degree angle or 45-degree. We're going to keep our right knee over our ankle. And then we're going to try to find the front heel to the back arch alignment. So your front heel should be in line with your back arch. And then a lot of us will be here, like with our right shoulder sort of trying to get over our right knee. See if you can pull your left shoulder back so that your shoulders are stacked right over your pelvis. And then you're going to wrap your glute underneath you. You're going to just try to spin your inner thigh up towards the ceiling and then wrap the outer edge of your thigh down towards the mat and then pull your glute down into the mat as well. So we're trying to make this motion where we're pulling we're spinning our inner thigh and our right foot up towards the ceiling. And then we're trying to take our tailbone down towards the mat. And then the arms come straight out in front of us as such, open up towards the side of the room. And then we are looking forward to our front fingertips, our right fingertips. Pull the low belly in, draw the ribs together, take your tailbone down towards your heels, down towards the mat. Maybe sink a little bit deeper into that front knee. Inhale through the nose. And then exhale, we're straightening into that front knee. And then we're going to start to reach our arms forward, as far forward as we can. And then as soon as you can't reach anymore, start to tip sideways to the left side of the room, opening up in a triangle pose. So we have a soft bend into the front knee. You can take your hand on your ankle, and our left arm is reaching up towards the ceiling. Our collarbones are broadened. Our shoulder blades are moving down towards our tailbone, and our neck is in line with our spine as well. And we're facing the left side of the room. See if you can continue to wrap the inner thigh up towards the ceiling and take your tailbone down towards the bottom of your mat. Take a deep breath here. And then as you exhale, we're going to turn our toes to face the left side of the mat. So they're in line with one another. We're coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Bend slightly into the knees, and then start to straighten, fold, find a flat, like a halfway lift here, like a long flat spine. And then leading with your chest, start to fold forward. And then your hands may come onto the mat. They may come onto your ankles. But if you have them on the mat, try to see if you can put them right underneath your shoulders, and then find as much length in the spine as you can. So rather than curving in the back, lead with the chest and the heart so that you can keep a flat spine here. Squeeze the outer hips together. So squeeze the glutes together as well. Soft bend into the knees, and our toes, we're putting a little bit more pressure on the inside edges of our feet here. Take one more deep breath. And then as we exhale, we're going to rise back up for a halfway lift. Take our hands on our hips and then slowly start to rise back up. Turn your right foot to face the front of the room. And then release the back heel. So we're back into this high lunge. And then we're going to plant our hands on on the inside edge of our right foot. Start to walk, like toe heel walk your foot out towards the right side of your mat. We're coming into a runner's lunge or a lizard lunge. This is where you may need a prop. So I'm going to grab my block, and it could be really anything here. This all depends on how open your hips are. If you can come down onto your forearms, go for it if that's comfortable for you. I am okay with staying right here. You can also drop the back knee and untuck the toe and come onto your forearms like that. But this is your variation. So you can drop the back knee, come onto your forearms. You can place your hands on a prop. It's totally up to you. So you should feel this in the hip flexor on the left side. You should feel it on the inner groin on the right side. And even the outer hip on the right side as well. Take a deep breath here. One more breath. And then exhale. We're going to release that prop if you have it out of the way. Plant your hands back on the mat. Step back into high plank pose. Lower halfway or all the way down, chaturanga. Or just go back into downward facing dog. Up to you. You can skip this part. And then make your way back to downward facing dog. On your inhale breath, reach your right leg up towards the ceiling, keeping the hips square to start. Seeing if you can take the heel and the inner thigh up towards the ceiling. And then bend your knee, and then open up your knee towards the left side of the room. So your left hip is open. Keep your shoulders square to the mat. Take your left heel to your right glute. Take an inhale breath here. And then exhale, straighten the knee as much as you can. And then close off that hip. So close the left hip, line it up with the right hip. And then we're stepping our left foot in between our hands, and we're setting up for high lunge. So left knee is right over the left ankle, and our right heel is released. And we're rising for high lunge. So again, we want to bend into that back knee as much as possible to see if we can get our tailbone down towards the mat and our frontal hip bones up towards our collarbones. And then arms come straight overhead. Check in with that front knee. Make sure it's right over the ankle. Pull the low belly in. And I encourage you to engage your entire lower body here. So squeeze your glutes, squeeze your quads. Take one more deep breath here. My turn. And then we're going to open up into warrior two. So we're going to drop that right heel, the right heel down to a 45-degree angle. And we're lining up our left heel to our right arch. And our arms are open wide like a T. And then we want our shoulders right over our hips. And see if you can wrap the outer edge of your left thigh down towards the mat and your inner thigh up towards the ceiling. Wrap the left glute underneath you. And then take your your right hip flexor and see if you can move it up towards your shoulders. So we're creating this like energetic movement and alignment in the body. And then your arms are out wide like a T, your shoulders right over your hips. Shoulder blades are moving down towards your tailbone. Arms are straight and engaged. And then you look towards your left fingertips. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. One more deep breath. And then as you exhale, straighten into that front leg, that left leg. We're going to start to reach our left arm as far forward as possible, and then tip our arms out wide. We're finding triangle pose. So triangle, you have a soft bend into that left knee. You're pushing that right hip forward, the right hip flexor forward as much as you can. You're continuing to wrap your inner thigh up towards the ceiling. Collarbones are brought in, shoulder blades are down the back, and neck is in line with the rest of your spine. You may need a prop here as well, so a prop to raise you up, or you can rest your hand on your shin. But I don't want anybody crunching over like this. I want a long, straight spine. Take a deep breath in through the nose, and then as you exhale, turn your toes, both of them, to face the side of the mat. We're coming into that wide-legged forward fold. So reach, lengthen the spine at first, and then exhale, fold all the way down. This time, take your hands in a different variation than you did last time. So it could be, if you had them on your ankles, take them to the floor, or vice versa. So keeping the spine as straight as possible, letting the neck hang heavy, squeezing the glutes together, squeezing the hips together. One more deep breath here. And then exhale, slowly start to rise back up halfway. And then we're taking our hands on our hips, bending into the knees, and rising all the way to standing. Turn your left foot to face the front of the room, and then release the right heel so that it's up towards the ceiling. We're turning into that high lunge position. And then we're going to place our palms on the inside of our left foot. Start to toe heel your foot to the left side of your mat. And we're coming into that lizard or runner's lunge. He's currently biting his foot. So weird. So again, you can come onto your forearms. You can drop the back knee. It's totally up to you. But we're taking deep, deep breaths here. You want to find a little bit of movement. Sometimes I like rocking back and forth. One more deep breath here. And then as you exhale, plant your hands into the mat. If you are on a prop, step your left foot back to high plank. Lower halfway or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing. And exhale, downward facing dog. Deep breaths in and out through the nose. Bless you. Take one more deep breath here. And then exhale, come onto your tippy toes, bend into your knees. You can either hop or step up towards the front of your mat. On the inhale breath, come up halfway. And on the exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way back up to standing. The arms come up overhead. And then hands come through prayer in front of your heart. So that's one round of that. We're going to continue to add on from there. Just 1 second, check the time. All right. We're just going to add on a couple things from that flow. So just pay attention. You have the option to up level, or you can continue to move through this flow just as is. Close your legs, dude. Sorry. On your inhale breath, reach your arms up overhead. And on the exhale, forward fold all the way down. Hey, come over here. Sorry, 1 second. Come over here. Hey, come over here. Really down. Really down. All right. Okay, sorry. On the inhale breath, we're going to reach our arms overhead. Exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, plant your hands on the mat. Step back into high plank. Lower halfway or all the way down. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, reach your right leg up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to skip the bend the knee, open the hip thing. We're just going to step right into high lunge. Sweep the arms overhead, high lunge position, bend into that back knee. Take an inhale breath. And then exhale, open up warrior two towards the left side of the room. So stack the shoulders right over the hips. Bend into that right knee so that your knee's over your ankle. Press into the outer edge of your left foot. Wrap the inner thigh up towards the ceiling, outer thigh down towards the mat. Take an inhale breath. And then exhale, we're going to straighten that front knee. Start to reach forward with your right hand and then tip into triangle pose. You can rest the palm on the shin or onto a block or prop, whatever you got. Inhale, breath through the nose and exhale out. On your next inhale breath, we're going to turn our toes to face the side of the mat and come into that wide-legged forward fold. This time, see if you can clasp your hands behind your back with your elbows bent. Straighten the elbows, and then start to take your hands down towards the floor. Again, we want a soft bend into the knees. Press into the inner edges of the feet. Squeeze your glutes together. Hold the low belly in. Find a flat spine as much as you can. Deep breath through the nose. And then exhale, release the grip of the hands. Come up halfway, place your hands on your hips. Bend your knees slightly. Rise all the way up to standing. So here's where we're going to add on. We're going to turn our toes to face the outside, or turn our toes outside. So like the inner feet are facing the side of the mat. And we're going to bend into the knees and sit into goddess pose. So this is external rotation of the hips here. So in this pose, a lot of the times what happens is we kind of come like this into a squat. But I want you to see if you can take your shoulders right over your hips. Seeing if you can, and the important thing here is to line the direction of our toes with the direction of our knees. So rather than like bending our knees forward and our toes are sort of facing this way, make sure that your knees are pointing in the same direction as your toes. Sit into the hips as much as you can. See if you can find as straight a spine as possible. Take your tailbone down towards your heels. Squeeze the glutes together. Squeeze the low belly in. And then you can take your hands into prayer. Or you can take your hands up towards the ceiling. Totally up to you. So this is goddess pose. Squeeze the glutes. Squeeze the thighs. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. Inhale, rise, straighten the legs. And then we're going to turn back to face the front of your mat into that high lunge position. We're coming into that lizard lunge or runner's lunge. So take your palms on the inside edge of your right foot, toe heel your foot out to the right side of the mat, and set up for your lizard lunge. With your knee down, your knee up, onto a block, onto your forearms. Totally up to you. Take an inhale breath. Exhale out. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. One last breath, inhale. And then exhale, plant your hands on the inside of your right foot. We're stepping back into high lunge, lowering halfway or all the way down, or skipping completely and going back to downward facing dog. Inhale, and then exhale. Take a deep breath here through the nose, and a deep breath out. Inhale, reach your left leg towards the ceiling. And then exhale, step your foot in between your hands for high lunge. So we're rising for high lunge position. Bend into that right knee as much as you need. Take an inhale breath here. And then exhale, open up to warrior two. So we're dropping the right heel down, bending into the left knee, wrapping the inner thigh up towards the ceiling, outer thigh down towards the mat. Shoulders are right over our hips. Arms are straight and strong. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Inhale, straighten the front knee. Start to reach your left arm forward as far as it'll go, and then tip down into triangle pose. So resting the palm on the shin, onto a block, onto the mat, anything that you can reach. Just make sure that your spine is long and straight instead of crunching over. And then see if you can roll the left or the right shoulder open towards the side of the room. Deep breath in through the nose. And then exhale, turn your left toes to face the side of the room. So both your toes are facing forward. And then we're coming into that wide-legged forward fold, again with our hands clasped behind our back. Bend the elbows, straighten the arms, and take your hands overhead towards the floor. Bend softly in the knees, squeeze the glutes together. More weight is in the inner edges of our feet. Inhale through the nose. And then exhale, release the grip of the hands. Start to rise halfway, place your hands on your hips, bend slightly into the knees, rise all the way up. Turn your toes out. You're finding goddess pose once again. We're sinking down into the hips. Make sure your knees are tracking in the same direction as your toes. Take your tailbone down towards the mat, pull the low belly in, broaden the collarbones, either reach your arms up or take them in prayer. And then maybe see if you can sink your hips a little bit further down. Deep breath through the nose and deep breath out. One more breath, inhale. And then exhale, straighten the legs. Start to turn your toes, both of the toes to face the front of your mat. And then we're coming into that runner's lunge on the other side. So your palms come down on the inside edge, or the inside of your left foot. You toe heel your left foot to the left side of your mat and set up for your runner's lunge on the other side. So you can have your knee down, forearms down. It's your practice. Do what feels good for your body. Take a deep breath here. And a deep breath out. One more breath, inhale. And then exhale, we're planting our hands on the mat, stepping our left foot back to meet the right for high plank, lowering all the way down or halfway down. We're skipping it and going back to downward facing dog. Inhale, upward or low cobra. Exhale, downward facing. Inhale through the nose and exhale out. Inhale through the nose and then exhale out. One more breath, inhale. And then exhale, start to make your way back towards the front of your mat. So you're stepping or jumping up to the front. We're going to take our feet out as wide as the mat with our toes facing out. So sort of like how we were in goddess pose. So we're like this. And we're going to sit into a Buddha squat. So we're squatting all the way down. So it looks like a little bit like this from the front. And then you may need a prop, like a pillow or something to sit on, depending on how your spine is. So if you're crunched over like this and your spine is totally curved, you may need to sit on something so that you can straighten and lengthen the spine. So take the inside, or take your elbows on the inside of your thighs, like almost right where your knees are, and press your thighs into your elbows, and then press your elbows into your thighs. So you're kind of creating this opposite resistance. And that will allow you to pull your chest through your sternum towards your thumbs and create an even longer spine. So this is a Buddha squat. We're breathing deeply through the nose and out. One more breath here. And then as we exhale, if you have something underneath you, remove it. And we're just going to sit down. We're going to come right into boat pose. So this is in one fluid motion. Sit down on your butt and then take your legs out in front of you into boat. So the important thing with boat is that we keep, rather than hunching over, again, we want to keep a long, flat spine. So boat could be a couple different things. It could be with your arms forward and your toes down. It could be with your legs up, with your hands behind your knees. Or it could be with your arms reaching forward and your hands up. So we're holding in boat. Take an inhale breath and an exhale. Inhale through the nose and exhale out. One more breath, inhale. And then as you exhale, we're going to lower into low boat pose. So basically you're just resting on your sacrum here. Squeeze your legs together. Your shoulders should be lifted off of the mat. Pull the belly towards the spine. Take an inhale breath. Exhale. Couple more seconds. Inhale. And then exhale. Come back into boat pose. Take a big exhale breath here. And then we're going to place our feet back on the floor and rest. So 2 options with this next stretch. You can either take pigeon pose, or you can take a supine figure 4. So I'll show you both. So supine figure 4, scoot your hips towards your heels, and then lay back on your back. You're going to take your right foot up, cross your right ankle over your left knee, and take your right palm and push it into your right knee. If you want a little bit more than this, you can lift your left foot off of the mat and take all of your, everything towards your chest. Continuing to push your right knee forward. Keep your left or your right foot flexed. So that's figure 4 supine. If you want to go into pigeon pose, start in tabletop pose. Take your right knee towards your right wrist, and then angle your left foot or your right foot so that it's closer to your left hip flexor. Start to drag your left foot and your left leg back. Flex your right foot, and then see if you can rest your, see if you can line up your right heel with your left hip flexor. So this is pigeon pose. And then in pigeon, we want to make sure that our extended leg is pointed straight. So not out to the side. Our heel should be facing up towards the ceiling and not like slacked out to the side. So take an inhale breath. If you're in pigeon pose and you want to come down to sleeping pigeon, you can come onto your forearms or all the way down. You can come onto a prop. This is a nice outer hip stretch. Deep breath through the nose and deep breath out. Couple more breaths here. And then on your next exhale, we're going to slowly start to rise up. So if you're in sleeping pigeon, rise back up here. If you're in supine figure 4, release the right leg, place your right foot down on the mat, and lift your left leg across your left ankle over your right knee. So just switch. If you're in pigeon pose, we're coming up onto our hands. Tuck your left toes under, lift your back knee, and then step back into downward facing dog. And then come back into tabletop pose for pigeon. You're going to take your left knee to your left wrist, angle your foot so that your left heel is towards your right hip flexor, and then untuck the right toes. Start to drag your leg back, flex into the left foot. Start to drag your leg back so that you can almost, or if you can, reach your left heel towards your right hip flexor. And we're uprighted first. And then if you'd wish to come down into sleeping pigeon, start to walk your arms forward, coming onto your forearms onto the mat or a block. Check your back heel, make sure that it's pointed straight up towards the ceiling. He has the hiccups. You good? And deep breaths here. Couple more breaths. On your next exhale, slowly start to rise. If you're in figure 4, just release that left leg and place your feet flat on the floor, hips width distance apart. So your knees are bent with your hips flat on the floor, or with your feet flat on the floor. If you're in pigeon, tuck your right toes under, lift your back knee up, press into your palms, and take your left foot back to meet your right and press back into downward facing dog. If you're here, make your way to seated position. So drop the knees and then take your legs out in front of you. We're coming all the way down onto our back and we're setting up for a bridge pose. So we're going to have 2 options here. So bridge pose, our knees are bent, our feet are flat on the mat, feet are about hips width distance apart. See if you can scoot your tailbone towards your heels so that when you reach your arms down, you can brush your fingertips towards your heels. Make sure that your knees are pointed in the same direction as your toes. So your toes are pointed straight forward. Equal amount of pressure into all four corners of your feet here. Take an inhale breath. And then as you exhale, press into the soles of the feet to lift your hips high. So using the strength of your glutes, of your back, and of your thighs, lift your hips up. Take your tailbone down towards your heels. Make sure that your knees are not splaying open, so we want our knees tracking straight forward. And then start to wiggle your shoulder blades underneath you a little bit more so you can come back up under those shoulders. And then press into the back of the head so that your neck isn't, your cervical spine isn't pressing into the mat. So we want our entire cervical spine to be off of the mat. Lift your hips a little bit higher if you can. Take a deep breath here. And exhale out. One more breath, inhale. And then exhale, slowly start to lower the hips. And then two options here. We're going to take that again. You can either take that again and clasp your hands underneath you and wiggle your shoulders underneath you so you can lift yourself even higher. Or if full wheel is in your practice, you may do that as well. So if we're in bridge pose, we're going to wiggle our shoulders underneath us, clasp our hands under us, and press your forearms and the back of your hands clasped into the mat to lift your hips even higher. Make sure that your knees are tracking straight forward. If you want to go into full wheel, flip your palms and place them next to your ears. Lift your hips and come up into the top of your head to start, and then press up into full wheel. Take your chest forward to the front of your mat. Make sure your knees are tracking straight forward. Take an inhale breath and an exhale out. 2 more breaths here. Inhale. Exhale. We're going to start to lower slowly as we can. If you're in full wheel, start to lower your head first. And then your shoulders. Slide your shoulders forward. And then slowly lower your tailbone down. Walk your feet out towards the front, to the outer edges of the mat, and then drop your knees together. Place your right palm over your belly and your left palm over your heart. And just take a moment to breathe here. Take one more deep breath. And then as you exhale, we're going to straighten those knees, straighten the legs again. Take your heels right under your knees. You're going to take your arms out wide like a T or like goalpost with the elbows bent and in line with the shoulders. And then two options. If you want a gentle twist, just drop your knees over towards the left. If your right shoulder comes up off of the ground, place a pillow underneath your knees. If you want something a little bit deeper, cross your right knee over your left and then drop your hips over. So it just makes the stretch a little bit deeper. We just want to make sure that our right shoulder is still on the mat. If it is not, place a pillow under your knees. And then see if you can take your right hip down towards your feet. If your neck allows it, turn your head towards the right. And take the deepest breaths you have yet today in this posture. One more deep breath. And then exhale, start to draw your knees back towards center. If your legs are crossed, uncross them. And then we're going to take it on the other side. So you can either drop your knees to the right or cross your left knee over your right. And then drop your knees towards the right. If your left shoulder lifts up off of the mat, place a pillow underneath your knees. See if you can pull that left hip down towards your heels. Take one more deep breath here. A couple more actually. Last breath here, make it the deepest one yet. And then as you exhale, draw your knees back into center. And then take them into your chest. Wrap your arms around your shins. Pull your knees in tight. And then start to make some circles with your knees. Just massage the lower back. Reverse the direction of the circles. And then we're coming into our final resting pose. So straighten the legs out. Rest the heels on the mat. Let your outer edges of your feet just drop towards the floor. And then your arms come out next to you with your palms facing up. Press into the back of your head to lift your shoulder blades off of the mat and then tuck them underneath you. And then press into your heels to do the same thing with your tailbone. So tuck your tailbone down towards your heels to release the low back. And then go ahead and start to just mentally scan your body and notice if there's any sort of places that you are feeling tense. You're still holding on to, you're still gripping. And just release that, relax whatever you're holding on to. The eyes are closed. Jaw is relaxed. The wrinkle is removed from your brow. Your lips are slightly parted. And your tongue is removed from the roof of your mouth. And just enjoy the last bit of this posture, this relaxation pose. I encourage you to stay here for at least 5 minutes. And just notice the sensations. Notice how different your body feels than from the beginning of class. And let go of any breath control that you have. So just relax your breath. So please stay here as long as you need. And thank you so much for joining me.